The world had changed overnight. Streets once filled with people were now silent. Cafes were closed, playgrounds empty, and even the air outside seemed heavy with fear. For Jason, a young man in his 20s, the lockdown felt like a cage. Days, blended together. The same walls, the same small apartment, the same silence. He thought he would go mad from loneliness. But then he remembered, he wasn't truly alone. Jason had a roommate, and his roommate was not human. Her name was Lyra. She had come to Earth months earlier, an exchange student from a faraway world whose name humans could barely pronounce. To Jason, she was simply Lyra, a quiet, thoughtful alien who loved studying human culture. Her skin shimmered faintly blue under the light, and her large silver eyes always seemed full of wonder when she looked at simple things like coffee machines, movies, or the sound of rain against the window. When the lockdown was announced, Lyra could not leave Earth. She could not return to her people. Flights were canceled, portals shut down, and embassies silent. So she stayed, and now, two unlikely roommates were locked inside a small apartment, forced to share their days together. At first, it felt almost normal. They divided chores, cooked together, and laughed at each other's clumsy mistakes. Jason showed her how to make scrambled eggs, and Lyra taught him a strange alien game involving glowing stones. They watched old Earth movies, and Lyra would ask endless questions about why humans laughed or cried at certain moments. Jason found her curiosity charming. Despite the fear outside, life inside the apartment had a strange warmth. But something changed. Jason began to notice little details. Lyra would sometimes pause in the middle of a sentence, her silver eyes distant. Her hands trembled when she carried dishes. At night, he heard her pacing in her room, her steps restless against the beige floor. Once, when she passed by him in the hallway, he noticed her skin glowing faintly, like moonlight hiding under the surface. At first, he thought it was just stress. Everyone was stressed. But soon, it became clear that something deeper was happening. One evening, Jason was sitting on the couch scrolling endlessly through the news when he heard a soft sound. It was Lyra standing in the kitchen. She held a glass of water, but her hand shook so badly that the glass almost spilled. Her breathing was uneven, fast, as if her chest could not hold enough air. "Lyra, are you okay?" Jason asked gently. She turned to him, and for the first time since he had known her, there was fear in her eyes. The faint glow on her skin grew brighter, spreading across her arms like liquid light. She clutched the counter for support. "Jason," she whispered, her voice trembling. "My cycle. It has started." Jason frowned, confused. "Cycle? You mean like, what kind of cycle?" She lowered her head, ashamed. "On my world, it is natural. Every season our bodies enter a heat cycle. We release energy, we burn inside. Our people know how to help each other through it, but here I am alone, and I cannot stop it." Jason froze. He had no idea what to say. 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. Heat cycle? Energy? Was she dangerous? Could she control it? Was he safe staying near her? But when he looked at her again, all he saw was someone trembling with fear, someone who did not want to hurt anyone, someone who was suffering in silence. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself, as if trying to hold her own body together. "I will try to hide it. I will stay in my room. Please do not be afraid of me." Jason opened his mouth, then closed it. He wanted to say something comforting, something human, but the words wouldn't come. The glow from her body lit up the small kitchen, painting the walls with strange, shifting colors. For a moment, Jason felt like he was living with a star trapped in human shape. The world outside was already filled with fear and uncertainty. Now, inside his own apartment, another storm was beginning. Jason did not know it yet, but the lockdown would not only test his patience and strength, it would test his compassion, his courage, and his ability to be more human than ever before. Because he was about to face something no human manual, no lockdown guide, and no survival book could prepare him for. He was about to live through his alien roommate's heat cycle. The days of lockdown moved slowly, each one almost the same as the last. Jason tried to distract himself with cooking, old TV shows, and the occasional book. But he could not stop noticing the changes in his roommate. Lyra was different now. The cheerful curiosity she had when they first became stuck together had faded. She spoke less, often staring at the window for long minutes as if the world outside might somehow pull her away. At night, Jason would hear her shifting in bed, sometimes whispering in her strange alien tongue, sometimes letting out soft gasps that made his chest tighten with worry. The glow on her skin grew stronger each day. At first, it was just a faint shimmer, like moonlight reflecting on water. But soon it became brighter, spreading across her arms and neck until it lit the dark hallway like a lantern. Jason could no longer ignore it. One evening, he decided to check on her. He walked to her door, hesitating. Knocking felt like crossing some invisible line, but before he could decide, he heard her voice, shaking, almost breaking. Not now. Not here. Jason pushed the door open. Inside, the room glowed faintly blue. Lyra sat curled on her bed, her knees to her chest, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Her silver eyes were wet, her whole body trembling as if she was fighting against some storm inside. "Lyra," Jason said softly, "you don't look fine." She turned to him and her voice cracked. "I told you, my cycle, it is getting stronger." Jason stepped closer, but she shook her head. "Stay back. It is not safe for you." Her warning should have made him retreat, but instead, it pulled him closer. He could see the fear in her eyes, not for herself, but for him. That fear hurt more than any danger she described. "Tell me what's happening," Jason said firmly. "I need to understand." Lyra swallowed hard. Her glow pulsed like a heartbeat. "On my planet, every season, our bodies enter this stage. It is called the heat. Our energy rises, our emotions burn. We release light, heat, and need. It is a natural process. We are never left alone. Our families, our people, they stay with us. They share the burden, and we endure it together. But here," her voice broke into a whisper, "here, I am alone." Jason felt a lump in his throat. He imagined being trapped in a strange world, in pain, with no one to help. He could not imagine the weight of that loneliness. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" he asked. Her silver eyes lowered to the floor. "Because it is shameful. Because I did not want you to see me like this. You are human. You cannot understand." Jason crouched down so their eyes met. "Maybe I can't understand fully, but I can listen and I can stay." For a long moment, Lyra just stared at him, her lips trembling as if she wanted to believe him but couldn't. Then suddenly she turned away, clutching her chest. Her glow flared brighter, lighting the room with waves of blue. Jason felt heat against his skin, not painful but intense, like standing too close to a fire. She groaned softly, curling tighter. "It grows worse every hour. Soon I may not control it. You must promise me, Jason. If it becomes too much, you will leave me. You will shut the door. You will protect yourself." Jason's heart pounded. He knew she was serious. Her body was struggling with something powerful, something alien. But the thought of abandoning her, of leaving her alone in her pain, twisted his stomach. He shook his head slowly. "I can't promise that. I won't just walk away from you, Lyra." Let out a shaky breath. "Humans," she whispered almost to herself. "Always so stubborn." The silence after that was heavy. The glow dimmed slightly, but Jason could see the exhaustion on her face. He stood, walked to the doorway, and paused. "If you need anything," he said gently, "just call me. I'll be here." Lyra didn't answer. She only closed her eyes, her glowing tears slipping down her cheeks. Jason stepped out, closing the door quietly. But even through the walls, he could see the light seeping through the cracks like a reminder that something inside was breaking, and he was powerless to stop it. That night, Jason lay awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling. The sounds from Lyra's room haunted him, Her quick breaths, her muffled cries, her fight against something that was too big for her to fight alone. He wanted to help. He just didn't know how. And deep inside, he feared this was only the beginning. The days grew heavier inside the apartment. Time felt like thick mud, pulling at every step. For Jason, the lockdown already felt endless, but now there was something worse than silence. The weight of his roommate's suffering. Lyra was no longer the bright, curious alien who asked questions about human food or laughed at old movies. She had become a shadow of herself. She avoided Jason, keeping to her room most of the day. When she did come out, she moved quickly, her eyes low, her glowing skin hidden under long sleeves. But the glow could not be hidden. At night, the light seeped through the thin walls and under the cracks of her door. Sometimes it pulsed, bright then dim, like a storm trying to break free. Jason would lie in bed, staring at the glow on his ceiling, listening to her restless, breathing through the wall. It broke him in ways he could not explain. He tried to act normal during the day. He made breakfast, left some for her, and pretended he didn't notice when she ate in silence. He joked about the news, about how boring life was, about anything that could make her smile. But she did not laugh. Her silver eyes carried a storm, and her lips trembled as if holding back words she could not say. One afternoon, Jason found her sitting on the balcony, her back against the wall, her arms wrapped around her knees. The sunlight touched her skin, making her glow even brighter. She looked like a piece of the sky had broken and fallen into his apartment. He stepped closer. "Lyra?" She turned her head slowly. Her face was pale, her glow uneven. "I cannot hold it much longer," she whispered. Jason sat down a little distance away. "Tell me what's happening now." Her eyes filled with tears. "Every hour the heat grows. It is like fire under my skin. My people. We never endure it alone. But I cannot touch them. I cannot hear their voices. Here I am trapped." Her voice cracked, and Jason's chest tightened. He wanted to reach out, to hold her hand, to do something, anything, but fear kept him still. He didn't know if touching her would burn him, or worse. "Is there something I can do?" he asked quietly. Lyra shook her head, biting her lip. "You are human. Your body is not made for this. If I lose control, I could hurt you. I cannot allow that." Her words cut deep. She was suffering, yet still more afraid for him than herself. Jason clenched his fists. "Then I'll stay near, even if I can't fix it." "You don't have to be alone in this." She closed her eyes. "You do not understand. Being near me makes it worse for you. My glow, my heat. It pulls at living things. Even you." Jason opened his mouth to argue, but she turned her face away, ending the conversation. That night, things grew worse. Jason was woken by a sound, a soft, broken cry. He sat up, heart racing, and realized it was coming from Lyra's room. He pressed his ear to the wall and heard her whispering in her alien tongue, begging for strength. Each word carried pain so raw it made Jason's eyes sting. He wanted to knock, to rush in, but he remembered her warning. She was afraid of hurting him. And so he stayed frozen, his hand hovering near her door but never touching it. The strain between them grew like a wall. Jason hated himself for not knowing how to help. He hated the silence that trapped his words in his throat. And worst of all, he hated watching his friend, his roommate, suffer while he stood useless. Days later, Jason noticed his reflection in the mirror. His eyes were tired, his face pale. He was losing sleep, carrying her pain in his own heart. And yet, when he glanced at the faint glow spilling into the hallway, he knew he would not give up. Something inside told him that leaving her alone was the worst thing he could do. Even if she pushed him away, even if he did not understand, even if fear clawed at him, Jason knew one truth: he would stay. The night was heavy with silence. Outside, the city was dark, only the occasional siren cutting through the still air. Jason lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, fighting against sleep. His body was tired, but his mind was restless. The glow from Lyra's room had grown brighter these past few days, and tonight it painted the hallway with waves of pale blue. Then suddenly a sharp sound split the silence. Crash. Jason jumped to his feet, glass shattering. His heart raced as he rushed out of his room and into the living room. Lyra stood there in the middle of the floor. A broken glass lay in pieces near her feet. Her hands trembled, her glow pulsing wildly like lightning trapped inside her body. Her eyes, usually calm silver, now burned with fear and desperation. I can't control it, she whispered. Her voice cracked, trembling like a fragile string about to snap. Jason froze for a moment, staring at her. She was shaking, her body glowing brighter with each breath, her skin radiating waves of heat. Sweat ran down her face, but her tears glowed brighter than the sweat, dripping like liquid light onto the floor. Lyra, Jason said softly, stepping forward. It's okay. No. She cut him off, her voice breaking. It is not okay. On my world, I would not be alone. My people would guide me through this. They would share the burden. But, here. Her knees buckled and she fell against the wall, clutching her chest. Here, I only have you, and I will hurt you if you stay. Jason's chest ached at her words. She wasn't pushing him away because she didn't trust him. She was pushing him away because she cared. She feared herself more than anything. Slowly, he stepped closer, ignoring the heat that pressed against his skin. You're not going to hurt me, he said firmly, though his voice shook. Her glowing eyes shot up, wide with desperation. You don't understand, Jason. The heat is not just pain. It is a force. It pulls, it pushes, it spreads. Humans are not built for this. If I lose control, you will burn inside it. You should run. You should leave me. Please. Her plea broke something inside Jason. He could hear the honesty in her voice, the raw terror of losing control. He wanted to run. Every human instinct screamed at him to escape the heat, the glow, the storm. But another voice inside him was louder. The voice that said she trusted him, that if he left now, she would drown in her own fear. Jason's fists clenched. His throat tightened, but he forced the words out. I'm not leaving you. Lyra shook her head, clutching the wall for balance. Why? Why would you risk yourself for me? We are not even the same species. We are not family. Why stay? Jason stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat rolling off her body. His face was damp with sweat, but his eyes stayed on hers. Because no one deserves to suffer alone. Not here. Not now. Not ever. Her lips trembled, her eyes shining with tears. You stubborn, human, she whispered, her body shaking harder. She collapsed onto the floor, curling into herself, glowing brighter than ever. Jason knelt beside her, unsure of what to do but refusing to move away. His hand hovered above her trembling shoulder, his body screaming at him to pull back, but his heart telling him otherwise. Slowly, carefully, he placed his hand on her shoulder. The heat burned against his skin, but not enough to stop him. Lyra gasped, her whole body shuddering. For a moment, the glow flared so bright that the entire room lit up, chasing away the shadows. Jason squinted against the light, gritting his teeth, but did not move his hand. Breathe, Lyra, he said softly. You're not alone. Not anymore. Her breathing slowed just slightly, the wild pulse of light easing for a few seconds. She leaned against the wall, her body still trembling but her eyes softer. You shouldn't, she whispered weakly. Humans are not made for this. Jason gave a shaky smile. Maybe not. But humans are made for standing by the people they care about, and that's what I'm going to do. For the first time in days, her lips curved into the faintest smile, even through her pain. It was fragile, broken, but it was real. The storm inside her was far from over. Jason knew that. But as he sat, beside her on the floor, sweat dripping down his face, his hand steady on her shoulder, one truth filled the room stronger than the glow, stronger than the fear. He would not abandon her, not tonight, not ever. The apartment was quiet, but it was not a peaceful quiet. It was the silence that came after a storm, heavy and uneasy. Jason sat on the floor beside Lyra, his hand resting gently on her trembling shoulder. The glow from her skin had softened for now, but he could still feel the heat radiating from her body. He wanted to pull his hand away, to rest, to breathe. But when he looked at her face, pale with exhaustion and shining with glowing tears, he knew he couldn't. "You don't have to do this alone," Jason whispered. Lyra's silver eyes opened slowly. They looked at him, weak but sharp, as if trying to read his soul. "You still don't understand," she said softly. "Humans are not built to be near us in this time. The heat, it consumes us. It pulls in anyone close. If you stay, you may break." Jason's lips curved into a tired smile. "Maybe, but humans don't survive because we are the strongest or the fastest. We survive because we don't give up on the people near us. Not family, not friends, not anyone we care about." Lyra blinked, her tears slipping down her glowing cheeks. Her voice cracked. "Why would you care about me so much? I am not even human. To you, I am a stranger, a creature from another world." Jason shook his head. "You're not a stranger. You've lived here with me. You've cooked in the same kitchen, laughed at the same bad movies, asked me a million questions about why humans cry at cartoons. You're not just some alien. You're my friend. And friends don't leave each other behind." For a long moment, Lyra just stared at him. Then her lips trembled into the faintest smile, fragile and full of sadness. She lowered her head, whispering, "On my world, they say humans are weak, but now I think your strength is simply different." Jason stayed with her as the night dragged on. When her body shook with pain, he spoke softly to her, telling stories from his childhood. He told her about the time he fell off his bike and his father taught him how to stand back up. He told her about his grandmother, who had lived through a war and still found reasons to smile every day. He even told her about his own fears during the lockdown, about the loneliness, the silence, the thought of being trapped with no end. Lyra listened. Her trembling slowed each time his voice filled the room. She leaned against the wall, exhausted, but her breathing steadied when he spoke. His words were like a rope thrown into the storm, giving her something to hold on to. At one point, she leaned against his shoulder, her body burning with heat, but Jason didn't move away. He stayed still, letting her rest, ignoring the sweat dripping down his neck and the exhaustion pulling at his body. "You're stronger than you think," he whispered to her. Her eyes closed, and for a moment she looked peaceful. "No," she murmured weakly. "It is you, Jason. Humans. You endure even when you should fall. That is your strength." The words struck something deep inside him. He had never thought of himself as strong. He was just an ordinary man, stuck in an apartment trying to survive a lockdown. But now, sitting with an alien who trusted him with her pain, he felt something stir in his chest, a kind of strength that came not from power, but from refusing to let someone suffer alone. The night stretched into morning. Jason's body ached. His eyes burned with fatigue, but he never left her side. When the first light of dawn touched the window, Lyra opened her eyes again. Her glow had dimmed slightly, her body still weak, but calmer than before. She looked at Jason, who sat slumped against the wall, fighting to keep his eyes open. "You stayed," she whispered. He gave a tired smile. "Told you I would." Her silver eyes shimmered, and for the first time in days she let out a soft laugh. Weak, but real. Jason's chest warmed at the sound. He realized then that no matter how strange, how frightening, or how exhausting the nights became, he would stay. Because that was what it meant to be human, to stand beside someone, even when the world said to walk away. The days blurred together. Outside, the world was still locked away, waiting for a cure, waiting for normal life to return. But inside the apartment, Jason's world had shrunk to something smaller. The glow of Lyra's body, the sound of her breathing, and the fight to keep her steady through the storm inside her. Jason had lost track of time. Nights bled into mornings, mornings into nights. He no longer thought about the news or the long silence of the city. His focus was on her. When the heat grew too strong, he stayed close, speaking gently until her trembling slowed. He told her more stories from his childhood, about how he learned to swim, about the time he stayed up all night with his sick dog, about the simple comfort of his mother singing when the world outside felt scary. Lyra clung to those stories. Her silver eyes would soften as she listened, her tears slowing, her glow dimming for a while. She told him once in a whisper, "Your words, they anchor me. They keep me from drowning." Sometimes she leaned against him, too weak to sit upright. Jason let her rest her head on his shoulder, even when the heat made his skin burn and sweat soaked through his shirt. He did not move away. His body screamed for distance, but his heart stayed still. He learned that his presence alone could calm her storm, even if just for moments. Other times, he distracted her with silly things. He played old Earth cartoons on his laptop, letting her laugh softly at the strange drawings and exaggerated voices. He tried to teach her human riddles, and though she rarely got the answers right, she smiled at the effort. Those small smiles kept him going, proof that even in the darkest nights there was light. But the nights were still hard. There were moments when her glow flared so bright that the whole apartment was bathed in shifting colors. Jason would feel his chest tighten, his skin tingling as though her energy was pulling at his very bones. He would grit his teeth, whispering through the heat, "I'm here, Lyra. Hold on. You're not alone." And every time she would whisper back, voice weak but determined, "You should not endure this, but thank you." Trust grew between them like a fragile flame. She began to let him see her at her weakest, no longer hiding in her room. Sometimes she would even call for him in the middle of the night, her voice breaking, but full of trust that he would answer. And he always did. One evening, as the glow flickered softly across the walls, Lyra looked at him with tired eyes. "On my world, no one faces the heat alone. It is shared. It is endured together. I thought here I would be abandoned, but you stayed." Jason nodded. "Because that's what humans do. We take care of the people near us, even if it hurts." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Perhaps humans are not as fragile as the stars say." Jason chuckled quietly. "We're not perfect. We make mistakes, we fall, we fight, but when it matters most, we hold on." The words hung in the air, warm and steady. That night, as she leaned against him, Jason realized something important. The lockdown had taken so much from him: freedom, normal life, the comfort of human company. But it had also given him something rare, a bond forged in fire, trust built not by choice but by standing together when everything seemed impossible. He looked at Lyra, her glow dimmer now, her breathing softer as she drifted into sleep against his shoulder. He whispered into the air, quiet, "You'll make it through this, I promise." And for the first time in weeks, as he watched her rest peacefully, Jason truly believed his own words. The morning came quietly. Sunlight spilled through the window, warm and golden, painting the apartment in soft colors. For the first time in many weeks, the light was brighter than the glow that had haunted the nights. Jason woke up on the couch, his neck stiff, his eyes heavy. Lyra was resting in the armchair across from him, her head tilted to the side, her silver eyes closed. Her skin no longer burned with fierce light. Only a faint shimmer remained, soft and calm, like moonlight on still water. Jason sat up slowly, his heart easing. He knew it wasn't over completely, but something had changed. The storm inside her had passed its peak. The worst nights were behind them. When she opened her eyes, they were clearer than he had seen in weeks. She looked at him, blinking slowly, her lips parting into a tired but peaceful smile. "You stayed," she whispered. Jason smiled back, though his voice was rough with exhaustion. "Told you I would." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Not heavy, not frightening, but soft and gentle. Then she lowered her gaze, her voice trembling. You should have left me. You should have protected yourself, but you didn't. Why? Jason leaned back, exhaling. Because humans don't run when someone they care about is hurting. We might be scared. We might not understand. But we don't abandon people. Not if we can help it. Her silver eyes shimmered with tears. On my world, I was told that humans are weak, that you are fragile. But now I see. You are strong in a way we are not. Your strength is compassion. You choose to suffer with others so they do not suffer alone. That is beautiful. Jason's throat tightened at her words. He didn't feel strong. He felt worn, broken down by sleepless nights and endless worry. But when he looked at her, alive, calmer, smiling through tears, he realized that maybe strength wasn't about how much you could endure alone. Maybe it was about how much you were willing to carry for someone else. Days passed. The glow on her skin faded, leaving only a faint shimmer. She began to eat more, to walk around the apartment without trembling. Her laughter slowly returned, soft at first, then brighter. Jason found himself smiling more too, the heaviness in his chest lifting as her storm calmed. And then, one morning, the news finally came. The lockdown was ending. Slowly, carefully, the world was opening again. People could step outside, breathe fresh air, see the sky without walls of glass between them. Jason and Lyra stood by the window, side by side, watching the city wake up. Cars moved along the streets again. Children rode bicycles. Neighbors waved. From a distance, the world was breathing again. It's over, Jason whispered. Lyra nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the sunlight. Yes, but I will not forget what happened inside these walls. She turned to him, her voice soft but steady. You saved me, Jason. You showed me what it means to be human. He shook his head gently. No, you saved yourself. I just refused to leave. Her lips curved into a small smile. That refusal is what makes you human. That stubbornness, that compassion. For a long while, they stood in silence, watching the sunrise. There were no words big enough to capture what they had endured together, but they both knew that something had changed between them, something deep, something unbreakable. The lockdown had been a cage, a time of fear and silence. But inside that cage, they had discovered something powerful, that even in the darkest nights, even across species, compassion could build a bridge stronger than fear. Jason finally turned to her, his voice calm. Whatever comes next, you won't face it alone. Not while I'm here. Lyra's silver eyes filled with quiet gratitude. And not while I am here with you. The sun climbed higher, flooding the apartment with golden light. The glow that had once filled the nights was gone, but in its place a different light remained. The light of trust, of friendship, of something stronger than pain. And in that small apartment, on an ordinary morning after extraordinary weeks, an alien learned the greatest truth about humanity, that our real strength is not in weapons, not in power, not in survival alone. It is in compassion,